coordinator at Parados. And let me tell you a bit about her. Terry Best-Thompson possesses a bachelor's in social work and a master's in counseling psychology. She is a generalist practitioner who is dedicated to empowering others. Terry, who is the counseling coordinator at Parent Education for Development in Barbados, known as Parados, has been tasked with reminding persons of their worth and the importance of self-care, effective communication, and empathy while parenting and co-parenting. She adopts the role of educator, mediator, negotiator, and advocate in her practice. And she is a patient, attentive, and empathetic, open-minded practitioner. Her goal is to continuously provide a safe and trusting environment where clients feel free, comfortable, and secure while enhancing their abilities to function effectively in every aspect of their lives. Let's welcome Terry Best-Thompson.
Thank you, Captain. Good morning. I am Terry Best-Thompson, as you just heard, and I am here to talk about co-parenting. And of course, for many, parenting starts when your partner is pregnant, for many. But for many, parenting starts Oh, I'm sure you guys could have heard me without the microphone, but now you can't hear. So again, I'm Terry Best-Thompson from Parent Education for Development in Barbados, known as Parados. And Parados' mandate is to help parents parent and co-parent effectively. And for many, parenting starts when your partner is pregnant or when you are pregnant. But for many, parenting also starts when the baby is actually in hand, because it makes it more real. So today we're talking about co-parenting and the characteristics of co-parenting. So, definitions. Co-parenting is an arrangement where both parents work together, and finally, where both parents work together and share the responsibilities of raising their child or children, even though they are not in a marriage or a romantic relationship. Work together, share responsibilities. That's from Sajana Gupta, a health journalist. The sharing of responsibilities is repeated again in each definition. The sharing of responsibilities for raising a child, often between people who do not live together as a couple, or when one person is not the biological parent of the child. And we're going to add the last one. You can find this particular definition in any book or on Google, but co-parenting includes those persons who have an invested interest in the care of the child and includes the extended family and other care providers. That is the only definition that was not there. Sometimes you may not have one co-parent. You may have two, you may have three. So for instance, when you identify your village, you will learn who your co-parents are. So hopefully we can achieve that today. So the objectives of my presentation: the importance of effective communication in the co-parenting relationship. Anyone met any mind readers recently? Anyone? Okay, so the importance of effective communication in the co-parenting relationship. Strategies to improve communication. The importance of boundaries and a co-parenting arrangement. That word boundaries is so important, because when you are no longer invested with your significant other, when you are no longer in that relationship, and when your emotions sometimes cloud your judgment, boundaries is what you need to make sure you guys can function effectively. And of course, identifying your village. So communication. We communicate every day. Communication is sending messages and receiving messages. Correct? So, I know this has had people sprayed at lunch, be a little lethargic, but even not heavy with work. Communication is the sending and receiving of messages, correct? So we send messages by how we speak. But that's not the only way we communicate. Because if anybody got a teenage daughter, anybody at all, or if you can remember yourself as a teenager, you know that your parents knew when to chastise you even without a word. Because this thing we do call body language, the rolling of eyes, the rolling of heads, and the tones we use. So co-parenting is often challenging. Even when you are with your partner, don't get it twisted, co-parenting is a challenge because our expectations and our values may differ. So I in the house living with you, and you sleeping, and I up breastfeeding the child. I might go wake you up too. Or I might be empathetic enough to say, you sleep now, and you can get the bottle later. So co-parent, even when you have a significant other who you are actively involved with, can be different. But when you have an ex who is very difficult to communicate with, co-parenting becomes infinitely more difficult. Healthy communication between co-parents is a key element of successful shared parenting. It is one of the only characteristics that is a definite need. You have to be able to communicate your parenting expectations to your co-parents. So healthy communication, especially for those relationships that are impaired. Be brief, to the point, and stay focused on your child. Hi, pleasant good afternoon. Your child has graduation on the 10th of July, and the school has required that you pay $550. I will send you the correspondence via email. Be brief, to the point, and stay focused on your child. Stay focused on present or future events. I tell you now, because the last time he had something, you will give the money. We're not talking about the last time. We are talking about the event that is happening now, and the event that will happen later. Yes, the event that happened before may preempt you to feel away. But if you stay in the present, you communicate more effectively than if you take 4 steps back to talk about something that was in the past. Don't jump to conclusions or overreact. We love to do this because we believe that we understand what the other person is doing. So I call you and you will answer your phone because you see my number. So I can block my number and call you back because you ain't answering your phone. But when I block my number and call you back, you still ain't answer, so I can justify that you know that it's still me calling you, so you're not answering. However, the phone can't be found because it dropped behind the bed and I don't know where it is and it's still on silent. Do not jump to conclusions or overreact because we have no idea what is happening. Don't criticize, blame, or accuse the co-parent. My son did 11 plus this year. It was very taxing for me more so than his child. And I remember he was doing a past paper and the comprehension was not good. And the co-parent said, what you was doing? At me. You know that I felt attacked. He just asked me what you was doing. I felt blamed. How dare you blame me? So the communication directly after was not the best. We rectified it though, because we learned to communicate effectively. But you can't criticize or blame people's effort, because we know what we know as parents until someone tells us, let's try something different. And then we learn to do something different. That's all we can do. So don't blame, don't criticize, don't accuse. Communicate effectively what is needed. Don't make rude, mean, or sarcastic comments about the co-parent. Your father's a very idiot. I can't stand you. You remember how he did behaving the other day? No. No, don't make rude, mean, or sarcastic comments about the co-parent. How we feel is based on our experiences. We have to work on ourselves so that we are objective and Anderson will talk about emotional intelligence. We have to know why we are feeling the way we are feeling and express that effectively. So that's the next one. Stay in control of your emotions. Because if you're angry and if you're overwhelmed, that is what will come out. I never squeeze an orange and get apple juice yet. What comes out of you is a result of you and how you feel and how you are able to manage yourself. Keep it courteous and cooperative, And in this presentation, the only thing in capital letters is C, courteous and cooperative. We go into environments, we work, and the people that come into our space is not always kind, but we do whatever we have to do to stay professional and keep our jobs. We are courteous and we are cooperative. So why can't we do that with the people we interact with every day? That is important. Commit to regular communication. Regular means as often as you can and your co-parent will allow. There is nothing insignificant. Again, I'm here to the girl ears today. The person may want to accompany you. It may be something insignificant, or he or she coughed up some mucus and it was green. It may seem insignificant, but it's important to the person who is not actively there with you. Agree to communicate regularly. However, if the relationship is tense, agree when and how you will communicate. If it can be via WhatsApp messages, and if it's WhatsApp messages, how long before the person needs to respond. Because don't WhatsApp me and then I respond 2 days from now. That's what I do personally. I apologize to anyone who has done that. But you put things in place so people know you can respond. So you have to set boundaries and you have to set time frames. So how we communicate, and I talked about this before. Our gestures, our postures, our facial expressions let people know what we're feeling. So even when we think that we are effectively managing it, people who have experienced us already know. So yesterday was in a text message and it was annoying me. And my 11-year-old said, what happened? And I said, what? He said, well, your face looks so. And I said, I just tired. That text message had me perturbed. And he, at his young age, could see that from looking at my face that something was happening. People know when we are upset, frustrated, overwhelmed. Everyone except the boss knows. For just looking at us. So your body language is going to be an expression of what you feel. And that's all you can do. Some people can fake it. And some people really cannot. Voice. If you raise your voice at me, I have a problem. I do not care how old you are or who you are. As soon as you get a tone with me, I want to get a tone as well. I have learned over the years that I should probably implement some of my counseling skills and say, so what's happening with you? Why is that tone that way? But that's years of experience. But know that if you get a tone, I got a tone too, because how dare you? So how we speak and our tones, our voice, it sends a message of its own. Actions. Remember, actions speak louder than words. You cannot keep making promises. The best apology is change behavior. So if someone tells you something about yourself, it becomes your responsibility to assess that relationship and identify if there is something that you need to change or you are willing to change. And sometimes it may be nothing big. And words. The words we choose to speak also send messages of their own. Words are subjective. I mean, the first may call someone a freak. It's a word is used, and the person freak right out and give the definition, meaning from the dictionary of how the person looks and behave and speak. And in my head was like, this person freaking out for truth, though. But words are subjective. They mean different things to us. So you have to tell persons, I do not like that word. When you say this to me, this is how I feel. I prefer to say something else. Right? So communication is so difficult because we are accustomed talking and we are accustomed hearing. But are we listening to understand what is required of us? Right? So this active listening is part of effective communication. I see a lot of people wearing earbuds and the overhead headsets. And they do that because they want to tune out what is happening. They want to hear their music. They may want to be distracted by the world. That is what an active listening is. When you pay attention to the person who is speaking, your attention is focused. Put down the cell phone. Listen. Look at the eyes, the body language. You are listening for a purpose to understand what is being said to you. Look at the nonverbal cues. See my son's facial expression, he knew that it was all set. This white light don't have. You can see somebody tapping the foot. You can see the impatient, you can see people checking their watch. Be attentive, because if my co-parent don't have the time for me, it means that there are certain things I can't share. So I can say, it seems like you have to go somewhere. Can we rearrange this another time? Or can we do it on WhatsApp? Can we do it on a call? Paraphrasing. Oh, this house. Because you're saying in your own words what you think you heard. So a person can confirm is, yes, that's what I expect you. Because sometimes we receive the message, but it's not the message that was intended for us to receive. So when I get work on mornings, I am singing, usually, you can ask my staff, some sort of song, awfully because I can't carry a tune. So they know that I'm in the mood. But when I come to you during answer night because I'm hungry, they understand that it's something different. Just where from. So you have to seek clarity as well on why persons are behaving the way they behave. I am not behaving myself because something else is bothering me. Sometimes people are not always themselves because they have underlying issues. It can be physical, it can be emotional. Right? So you have to seek clarity. And finally, you have to provide feedback. If my tone affects you, how will I know that my tone affects you unless you say? We teach others how to treat us by what we accept. So if you don't tell me what it is that is bothering you, if you don't provide feedback on what I'm doing that you think is incorrect, there is no way that I can change, so it means that our relationship will continue to be impacted, correct? We teach others how to treat us by what we accept. So we have to share what it is we require of people. So provide feedback. So boundaries, we talked about this before. So let's just dive into what boundaries mean. Boundaries are invisible lines that define what behaviors are acceptable for individuals. They can be physical, aka don't touch me, or they can be emotional. Do not speak to me as if I am your 1-year-old. Boundaries are therefore essential guidelines to ensure a structured co-parenting relationship that minimizes conflict and stress. So my personal boundaries is, if your child is sleeping at 10 o'clock, don't call for your child at 10:15. If you want to have a dialogue with me, you can let me know, well, when he goes to sleep, we have to have a dialogue, so can we do that after hours? And we can agree on that. Boundaries is, do not call my cell phone from a landline. Hop up your cell phone as well and call me. Boundaries will look different for different people. It depends on your values and your expectations. But you are the persons responsible for identifying them and putting them in place. And it is never too late to identify a boundary, because sometimes we don't know what we want until something happens that we did not want. And then you implement it. So boundaries are important in your co-parenting arrangement. Boundaries also include how you will treat your child. I do not implement spanking. What can you do differently? Let's talk about that. What can you implement? Because I don't want you beating my child because you may beat my child for something that I encourage my child to do, like speaking up for him or herself. You have to have boundaries and you have to share expectations. And my thing stopped working. Alright, so on to the next slide, because it's not memorized, we can talk more about the co-parenting arrangement, which is somewhere in this slide as well. So when you are in a co-parenting relationship and your co-parent does not live with you, what is the access like? How often can your co-parent access the child? What are your expectations of your co-parent when they access the child? I remember my son went to a government nursery and he knew his body parts and he would say penis and he would call all these things correctly. And the weekend I sent him by his dad and he came back home calling his penis a cock. A cock. Cock-a-doodle. And I said, what? And he said, Daddy says a cock. And I said, no, that's a penis. That's what you left here calling it as, and that is what it is. So you have a penis. And I called his dad. And I remember his dad went into a laughing fit because he didn't mean anything by it. It's one of his street names. And he said to me, my child has to be educated. he needs to know all the words to describe his penis. So he will know that it's a cock, it's a snake, it's a mug, and he starts calling all these things. And I said, I respect that. But until he is a little older, let's stick to penis and then deviate afterwards. We have to have boundaries in place. My son no longer says yes please, even though I say yes please. Because his father thinks that's a slave mentality. And I respect his views. So my son now says yes mom, yes dad, yes granny, yes granddad, yes teacher. So he's not disrespectful, he has just changed his views. And the slide has also changed. So boundaries. When you're talking about boundaries, we talk about respect for personal lives. You have to respect the person. This is someone that you strongly liked and even loved at some point in time. And even though we evolve at different times, which changes the dynamics of the relationship, it is still someone that you communicated with and care for at some point of time. So respect that person. We talk about scheduling access. So what does access look like for you? Can the child go every other weekend? Can the child go every evening or week? What is the access? Whatever you can afford is a discussion between you and the co-parents. Child-centered approach means you focus on the child. Don't focus about my new partner, and I will not focus about your new partner. Don't focus about my nails, and I will focus about yours. Don't focus about my new shoes, and I will focus about yours. The focus is on the baby. What does the baby, child, teenager needs? How can we work together to make sure those needs are met? It is child-friendly, and if the focus is only on the child, it makes it easier and communication becomes child-centered. Decision-making protocols, what does that look like? As a primary caregiver, sometimes you feel like you have more rights than the person who is visited. So you make decisions based on what you're doing every day. But that person also have the rights. So those are things you can discuss. What happens in the case of emergency? Does my child go to Queen's Elizabeth Hospital, FMH, or Sandy Crest? Those are decision-making protocols, especially if the finances is going to impact on the co-parenting dynamics. When my child goes to primary school, will it be private and public, or public? If it's private, what is the amount of money we're trying to pay? If it's private, are we doing gender-based? These are decision-making things that are co-parent effective and cause challenges. And when a child goes on to secondary school, do we continue in the private environment or do we put a child in public? You have to have an idea of what your values are, your expectations, and expect that your co-parent will also have an input as well, and respect that. And then you can make these decisions together. Emergency protocols. I talk about don't call my phone at 10:15 at night. However, if there's an emergency, does that change? What are the red flags? What is an emergency? Because unless the child bleeding and they say, hey doctor, don't call me if I'm sleeping. However, if you are a new parent and you're not having a child for the first time, your emergency may be different to mine. And if you have my child and you're uncomfortable, yes, call me by any means. And I will tell you what to do next. What are the emergency protocols? What happens? And flexibility and adaptability is important because the schedule may be, you have my child every other weekend from Fridays 5 p.m. to Sundays 5 p.m. However, I don't feel good. I got chikungunya. Do you really want me to care for that child with me not feeling well? Can I call and say, I'm not feeling well, can we change the arrangement? Oh sure, I got 5 minutes. I am sure that I was not supposed to say that out loud, but let's run through this quickly. So in the arrangement, you have to know how long you're going to plan it for. You also have to talk about the custody schedule, also having the same rules in each home. Because if you allow my child to stay up to 11 p.m. watching Dragon Ball Z and animes, and he coming home and he got to go bed at 7:30, which house do you think he would prefer? If you allow my child to eat Conkers and drink red fruity, when he has never had that at my house, and he bouncing off the walls happy, which house will he prefer? So rules, boundaries, disciplinary structures have to be discussed and have to be equal so children will not have preferences and so you can guide your child the way you want to guide your child, right? So, and this is information that you can get from Paradox. You can get it on our website or you can call the office. So your agreement will talk about if they're going to be in sports, who's going to be responsible for taking them to sports, holidays, which parent would have holidays, who would have the child for Mother's Day, Father's Day, if you're going to split it, contributions, direct payments to my account, to the child's account, or to the school, how you're going to manage every aspect of rearing this child. So it takes a village. Some people like to say I'm a single parent. I want you to be clear. You can be single, but not a single parent. The reality is you not being involved in a relationship does not mean you're a single parent. It means you're single. So if your co-parenting is helping, it's unfair to say as a single parent, no, you're single, but you're co-parenting. And co-parenting also includes your village. Sometimes the person that you have co-created with may not be accessible, but their family may be. Maternal and paternal grandparents, maternal and paternal aunts. And these people that's come to your church with you that call God parents. Here the name by ending God, first on top of God and then parents. That is your village. Those are your co-parents as well. And of course, there are no organizations who want to help you in this dynamics. The Ministry of Health and Wellness have just put on this entire 2-day program. That's an organization that's interested in parenting and co-parenting. Of course, there's Paradox, Parent Education for Development in Barbados. There's the Barbados Family Planning Association. There is a Family Conflict Unit if you can't manage any conflict or anger. There's the Welfare Department, they have a Family Services Unit. And of course, there's the Child Care Board. And I want to correct something because many people think that the Child Care Board is there to take your children. And that is not true. The Child Care Board is there to offer services for you so you can better parent your children, right? So that's it for Paradox. I'm gonna go back. That's it for Paradox, and I now open for questions. Yes, please.
Morning.
Morning.
Wait, everyone can hear me? Do I need to go to the mic?
I'll bring it.
Oh. Okay. Oh, yeah, I can. It all wants, you know? I can come. Whew. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, everyone. Okay, so it's funny. Is everyone finished with this slide by any chance? Because I want her to go back a slide. So, why this is funny is because as you were talking, before you even got here, all of these, everything that you said, funny enough, doesn't only take to co-parenting. So I'm married. I have a stepdaughter. Before we were married, and I had a stepdaughter, what was he then? I thought I was in a relationship. Are you sure? It wasn't a situation, you know. He told me that I was his girlfriend. But I had a man, so I'm sure. Yeah. But then we got engaged. What they had was not necessarily co-parenting. What they had was a very dysfunctional relationship. Now, I also am a counselor psychologist, so there's certain things I would say, honey, XYZ. Okay. We got married, had our own kid. We got our kid before we got married. A lot of the things that you talk about in co-parenting also exist in grandparents when you co-parent with grandparents. So when I say co-parent with grandparents, you have your kid X amount of time, but then what happens when your child goes down by its grandparents? So a lot of, and it's funny because then you can also take this entire presentation and you can go to the grandparents and you can say, but hey, we're co-parenting this child. Because you co-parent with grandparents, you co-parent with godparents, all of these things. And what I thought was interesting is when you said, what happens in my house should also happen in the other house. So I say that because my daughter's autistic. So there are lots of things that we have at my house, at our house, a strict routine or regimen that disappears every weekend. So therefore, when our daughter comes back home, it takes her at least 2 days to come back to her routine at our house. So something as simple as eating rice. I didn't even know she ate bread till the other day. How do you know she ate bread? Because her father was eating a bread sandwich. He's calling it a bread sandwich. Y'all know what a bread sandwich is? Bread and bread. So he had 3 pieces of bread and he was eating a bread sandwich. And I bougie, I didn't know nothing about bread sandwiches. They told me that I ain't come out in the struggle, so I didn't know what it's like to eat a bread sandwich. I tell you sorry about that. But anywho, and she came and she literally took a whole slice of bread from his bread sandwich. So then he had 2 pieces of bread and not 3. And they stood up there in total shock because I did not know that she ate bread because we never gave her bread at our house.
And the challenge is that we have to communicate. Sometimes it takes a lot of energy to ask what happened, and it also offends people to ask what happened. But if you don't communicate that you want to know what happened, how would you know what happened? Especially if your child is not at a space where they will come home and share everything with you. What I would say is that the require and the desired goal is for the rules and boundaries to be same to make it fair. However, in some households, you cannot control what those people will do. And then you have to negotiate. You have to ask questions. The unfortunate thing for most parents is, this is my support system. So if I don't take this child by these people this weekend, this is an extra, for lack of a better word. I'm not saying that children are a burden, but we know they take a lot more than they give. So if I don't take my child or children by this house for this weekend, it impedes on my own routine and it impedes on my mental health and what I have to do. We then prioritize. We identify, is the child at risk for this short period of the weekend? Will their dynamics change the value system that I am implementing in my own home and in my own household? And then you decide for if you're going to allow it to continue and struggle, or if you're going to find an alternative to utilize.
But then what do you do when you've had that conversation, especially like I said, because she's on the spectrum, she's routine based, and then that routine goes through the door. What do you do when you continue to have that conversation and you have that conversation, but like you said, you also need a break? So let me tell you, I really want you to be asleep at a certain time. I know if you go down there, that's not gonna happen, but if you stay home, you're gonna be all over me like Punka Donkey.
But you have options, and that is the thing. We always have choices. So again, sometimes the consequence is that because we want to raise our children a certain way, that we are going to be affected. Then what can we do in our own home to ensure at some point in time, this child gave me 5 minutes? Who can I bring into my environment? Who can assist me? So if I no longer want to take you to that environment because you are not adhering to simple requests, if I keep you in my environment, can I bring in someone to help? So you have to listen to me. Parenting is difficult, but you have to effectively find a strategy that can assist you in this journey with people, especially who will keep your value system and do what is required of you. And no disrespect, or people don't change. Or people say, I live my life, and if we want to do what I raise you, and you turn out pretty good, let me do what you got to raise your children. So you have to help them realize, all right, if you're going to do what you want your grandchildren, you'll have less access until I can see an improvement.
All right, thank you so much to Terry Best-Thompson, the counseling coordinator at Paradox. Thank you, Terry, for those real-life strategies that remind us that parenting is always a team effort. Now, we'll